Good morning. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day. We get a chance to rise up and see another day. So that's what makes it a beautiful day, because God let us see another day. Um, this morning, I was thinking about something on yesterday. As you know, yesterday marked 5 years in which I had lost my late husband. So anyways, it was kind of one of those days of emotion. Um, but I know that, and all of us know that when we have loss, we have to get back up and find a way to keep moving in life. And so, just going through yesterday was kind of a difficult day. But in that, I went in the room where I keep a lot of his material, where a lot of his sermons and things like that. I have them in a special place back there, but he had tons of sermons. But anyways, I go in there sometimes and I just read some of them, or I'll go out in the garage where I have a crate that's full of sermons that he wrote, stuff like that. So I kind of spent yesterday reflecting on some things, but I also, something that I was reminded of, and I could hear his voice saying, you got to be strong. You got to get up. You can't let things in life keep you down. It's kind of like, and I know some of y'all have probably been there, where you've lost loved ones, not just your spouse, people in your life, your parents, just things, children, things that you have heard them say, and it rings in your ear at the time, at difficult times, or times when you feel like you're struggling, trying to get through a moment in life. But it's a reminder that they are still there with you. And so it's like I could hear him in my ears yesterday speaking to me and saying to me, Electra, come on, get it together. Get back up. Keep going. You got things to do. Because he used to always say that to me. We got to get back up. We got things to do. Come on, sweetie. We got things to do. Just something like that. And I could hear it yesterday. But as I was thinking about looking over some of his material, and he was talking about God planned it that way. God planned it that way. So I thought I would like to share that with you all this morning as a way of encouragement. God planned it that way. We don't know why he planned it that way in our life, whatever we're going through, but he planned it that way. So when you are in a situation where you don't fully understand, I'm going to say, like I was reading in some of his material, God planned it that way. God planned it in such a way that he knew that my late husband needed me in his life at a time when God put me there. God planned it that way. Because at the point when I came into his life, he had been married years before me to his first wife. And you can never take away somebody's history, and don't ever try to do that, because I'm glad that we had that understanding in which I shared with him. The fact that when someone has been married for many years and they lose their spouse, you respect the fact of where that person has been in their life with that person, with that individual, because they had a history as well. You become, in their latter days, as God brings you into their lives, you become a latter part of their history. But God planned it that way. But that has to be set in stone whenever you go into a relationship of marriage to someone that has previously been married and they lost that spouse, you have to have that understanding. Because I myself had never been married. That was my first marriage. And that was my only marriage. But I'm just saying, I thank God that he planned it that way. Because God made me the type of woman that he wanted me to be for such a time as that. For such a time as a man such as my late husband coming into my life. And God bringing us together in holy matrimony. But here's the thing. I will say this, and I really mean this, and this is something that I shared with him when he was alive. People say many things. You can't stop people from talking. Because people make up in their mind what they want to think and what they want to believe. But the thing is that in relative to the situation that was at hand, God made me the kind of woman, the kind of human being that can respect the road in which a person traveled on before they made it to that point that you became a part of their life. So I shared with him, I understand that you lost someone in your life of 40 years. That's a long time. And I understand that there's a process that you have to go through to get on the other side of that. And I want you to understand and to know that you can talk about that whenever you want to. In other words, you can talk about your pain. You can talk about your marriage from your late wife. You can talk about that, because in this, how can you have a healthy marriage if you don't understand and allow a person to talk about their past? Because loss is hard for anybody. I don't care who you are. You're not trying to take that person's place, and nor should you try. But you should understand that, hey, that could have been me. I could have been the one that had been married for 40 years. I could have been the one that had been there. And he could have been the one that had never been married. But the roles were reversed. So I don't feel bad or sad about it. I thank God that he gave me the kind of heart that he gave me for such a time as that. God planned it that way. And I talk about things because I feel like when you're coming on to speak to people, look here, you have to be transparent. People need to know who you are. You don't come before people as if your life is of perfection, because all of us face something in life. And that don't mean it's a bad thing. It just means there were some experiences along the way that we can share with somebody else in hopes that they can say, okay, I get that. I'm there, or I might be there at some point in my life. Because the love then has nothing to do with the love now that you and that person share. That's when you really love somebody. When you love them for what you know. Not only what you know, but the things that you don't know. The things that you don't know. And you can still love them, as well as the things that you know. Because you can be in somebody's life 30, 40, 50 years, and don't you know it's still something that you might not know about them. But that's okay, because you can love them even though you don't know. So leading into what I want to kind of share with you on this morning, in God planned it that way. I want to kind of give you some highlights on how what I read in one of his lessons on yesterday that showed me God planned it that way. He planned it that I found that piece of material on yesterday to read through. See, it talked about how when God planned it that way, because through the plan, somehow you always get on the other side of it. When God planned it that way, through the pain, through the weariness, through the worry, through the struggle, you get through it. And the only reason why you get through it is because God planned it that way. And he gave you the strength to get through it. See, because God knows when it's going to start and God knows when it's going to end. Whatever it is in your life, God already knew when it was going to start and he knew when it was going to end. Whatever the situation is. And this morning, I'm telling you, everything that happens, every piece of pain that you struggling with right now, let me tell you something. You're going to get through it because God planned it that way. So in his lesson, he was talking about the windshield. When there's a crack in the windshield, listen to me closely. When there is a crack in the windshield of your car, let's imagine your car. When there's a it's a crack in the windshield in your life. That real, you know how a rock will hit your windshield and after a while that line goes across there and you said, oh my God, got a crack in my windshield. And so now I can relate to that because back in October, that's what happened to me. And isn't it ironic that I picked his lesson up, one of his lessons of some material from one of his lessons, and it talked about that. So his lesson was reminding me there's a crack in the windshield. It was a crack in your windshield back in October, and you got it fixed. You did what you had to do to get it fixed because you know one thing. You could, on the other side of that crack in your windshield, there is some sunshine. There is some sunshine on the crack in your windshield. So when God reminded me on yesterday about back in October, I was reading his sermon, my late husband's sermon on yesterday. I was just going through it. Like I told you, read the material. I just find material and just read it for strength. And look here, I'm reading that and God takes me back to October when I had the crack in my windshield. I had the crack in my windshield. In real life, I could see it physically, but I got it fixed. So in the lesson on yesterday, he talked about the crack in the windshield, but on the other side of the crack is some sunshine. On the other side of crack is some rain. On the other side of the crack is some lightning. On the other side of the crack is some thunder, because you looking through the windshield and you can see all of this past the crack in the windshield. Isn't that something? The crack is in the windshield when you have a loss on the other side. But guess what? There's some sunshine. There's some joy behind that crack, because God gives you the joy that you need to get past that moment, and he's going to fix the windshield. He fixes the windshield. And the way that he fixed the windshield, he shows you. See, you don't have to go out there. See, God had to pay for nothing because he owns everything. I paid to have that windshield replaced on the car. But God said the reason why I supplied you the money to pay for the windshield because I wanted you to know that it was all in the plan for a moment that you was going to experience on yesterday. For that very moment you was going to be able to reflect back on some things from years ago when you were taught by this very, very man of God that I put in your life. I placed him in your life because I had some things that I needed him to do in your life. I needed him to come in into your life, to be an encouragement, to be an inspiration, to show you what real love looked like. When when a man really loves a woman, what it looked like. I needed you to know that because of the way that you were feeling about even yourself at that time. You didn't think much of yourself at that time. You didn't think that you could be loved like that. You didn't think somebody could care about you like that. You didn't think somebody could nurture you like that. You didn't think that. You didn't feel in your mind. You didn't believe those things could happen to you. But I planned it that way. Because you had a crack in your window. You had a crack in your windshield. And I turned around and I fixed it through your life with a man of God to show you what I look like when I fixed the windshield. I fixed it because I wanted you to see that you were worthy of a true loving relationship. In there, I was reminded, hey, this is something that my late husband told me. Electra, sweetie, if I ever treat you less than wonderful, you don't have no business with me. Let me say that again. If I ever treat you less than wonderful, you don't have no business with me. And I can tell you, he didn't just say it, he lived it that way. He lived his life with me that way. See, because people stand on the outside and they judging by what they think they know. And they can say some things that's so mean and so deceitful and so ugly. And if you're not careful, you won't think about that person that's in the house with you. You will allow that ecosystem that's out there to dictate to your life, and you will lose. You will walk away from the best thing that God has placed in your life because you decided you want to listen to that ecosystem. And that ecosystem is all that chatter that's out there that's telling you you're not worth it. That's telling you that you are less than everybody else. You know, things that ecosystem sounds off in your life. We all been there. We all been there around that ecosystem of negativity. But you got to drown it out. And here's what I say to you this morning. When God plans something in your life, it's some things that you're going to be able to identify with through his word. Now, some things that was laid out in that lesson for me, some things that God will remind you of, and I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through them this morning really quick for you. See, when God plans it that way, this is some things he reminds you of through his word. He said you pray without ceasing. That's number one. Because I planned it that way. He says trust in the Lord with all your heart because I planned it that way. He says all things work together for good because I planned it that way. Be strong and courageous because I planned it that way. Take every thought captive because I planned it that way. Do not fear because I planned it that way. God is love because I planned it that way. I can do all things through Christ because I planned it that way. And the Lord is my shepherd because I planned it that way. In other words, I'm not saying these things. This is what God has reminded me of on yesterday. I'm telling and sharing it with you on today because there's somebody out there that's struggling with something in their life and they don't know why is that way. They can't figure it out. They don't know the next step to take. I'm telling you this morning that God reminded me of something on yesterday. He said, I planned it that way. I knew when y'all was going to get married, and I knew when I was going to remove him from this side of earth on up into heaven and glory with me because I planned it that way. It was a crack in the windshield, but I fixed it because I knew one thing. I wasn't going to let him stay here on this side when I had already emptied him with my word. He had already served my people. He had already given all that I had given and poured into him. It was nothing else for him to do. I planned it that way. I emptied him. And once I emptied him, I took him home with me. He had done everything I told him to do. He finished his course. He finished it. He finished it on this side. I planned it that way. God reminded me of that. I know that there are tears in your eyes, but you have to understand, I know what's best for you, and I knew what was best for him because I planned it that way. So when you are in your pain on this morning, when some of you are struggling with some loss this morning, when some of you just feel like things in your life are not on path the way that you want it to be. Remember one thing, God planned it that way. And when God plans it that way, he already equipped you to get through it because he knew that that windshield had a crack in it. He already knew it. Your windshield has a crack in it. But God said, I'm going to fix that on the other side. So when you looking through your windshield as you driving down the road, you might not have a crack in it right now. But guess what? There might be a crack in your heart. There's some crack in your emotions. It's some stuff going on right now and you feel like you're broken. But God said, I planned it that way because I'm trying to get you on the other side of your greatness. I'm trying to get you on the other side of better. I'm trying to get you on the other side of where I need you to be so that you can see what I'm doing in your life, so that I can strengthen you, so that I can build your foundation, so that I can remind you of who I am, so that I can remind you that I never left you, that I never forsake you. Even through all of those things, you can still rise to your feet and you can smile and you can do like I did on yesterday. You can write a tribute to the person that brought so much into not just your life, into other people's life that may be feeling the same way in the loss of that person, because he had not only me, he had members, because he was a pastor. He had friends, he had brothers, he had sisters, he had nieces and nephews and other people in his life, children that feel the same thing, but they expressing it in a different way from me and in their own solitude. But guess what? We all feel the loss because he was such an impact. I told you about that word, impact. This is one man that I can say, I know for a fact he was an impact. His stain is on the lives of so many people. When we traveled across this nation, across this country, in the United States of America so that he could do street ministry. I watched him on the streets as I walked with him on the streets when we hit the different states, down in South Carolina, down in Chicago, down in Tennessee, down in Alabama, different places we went. Different places we went. Atlanta. We traveled in Florida. We traveled in New Mexico. We traveled. And one of his things close to his heart was his ministry. And he would always say, you know what? This is the best ride of my life. This is something that I've been wanting to do. But see, at that time, God was winding it up. See, we don't always understand what God is doing because we're enjoying the moment. And we don't understand when the turbulence comes. Sometimes we don't understand that. But God already said, he said, I planned it that way. See, that's why you can get excited about your life. You can get excited. You don't need nobody else to excite you. You can get excited about your life when you know that God planned it that way. When God shows you and he begins to speak to you and let you know, I planned it that way. I planned that travel. I placed those words in the mouth of that man. I placed those words in the mouth of women and men across this nation. When are we going to get it? That's what he's asking us. When are y'all going to get it that I planned it that way? Well, let me tell you something. I got it. I got it on yesterday because I was reminded. God planned it this way. Ain't nothing you can do about it when God plans something. It's nothing you can do about it. Because you got an agenda and God has one too. And his agenda gonna always override yours. It's just that way. It's just that way. God controls everything. I saw this piece of paper where it was during a time when it was in there when my husband, he was losing his strength. Okay. So he was losing his strength and he was still trying to write. And on that piece of paper, I didn't even know about it until I was looking through some material. He had enough strength to write down, God is so powerful. He even controls pain. Listen to me. God is so powerful. He even controls pain. Isn't that something? This man is losing his strength, but he's still trying to do something for the one who is in control of his life. And so he writes it because God had already emptied him. God is so powerful. He even controls your pain. He controls pain. And I had to step back. And I'm not saying yesterday wasn't a rough day, but I made it through it. And I was directed along the way to go ahead and look at some of that material back there. I left some stuff that's going to help to keep you strong along the way. You got all of me. You got sermons on that computer. You pull them up and you listen to them. I do. I left some stuff with you to make you strong. Your mothers, your fathers, those of us that have lost our parents, they left some stuff with us to keep us strong. Siblings that we've lost, they left some stuff with us to keep us strong. People overall in your life that have left a mark on your life Guess what? They left some stuff. Grandma and them, grandpa and them, they left some stuff with you to make you strong, to keep you strong, telling you don't give up. Don't you dare give up. That when I was sitting and I was having those conversations with you, I left some stuff with you. I left some words with you. And God say, you powerful because of that. Because what I was leaving with you, what I was interjecting with you, when I was planting flowers in your life, for such a moment, when that windshield was cracked, when that heart was broken, you can go back and get that. But at the end of the day, when it's all wound up, God say, I planned it that way. I planned it that way. I can hear it in my ears, in my mind right now. God planned it that way. You might not like it. You might have some discomfort with it. But when you think about it, how God planned it that way. And each and every day that you rose to your feet, even today when you rise to your feet, God gives you enough strength to get through the day because God saw you in your troubles. And God says to you, I needed you for this point, for that point in your family member's life, whoever it is. I needed you for that. God said, I needed you for those years in his life. I needed you. I placed you there in his life. The world may not have understood it, but I knew that I needed to put you there. I planned it that way. I planned it that way. When you working for God, let me tell you something. When you living for him, when you treating people right, when you trying to understand people instead of criticizing them, you know, you got to understand when you loving people that you know hate you. See, God already knew that, so he planned it that way when he gave you the heart that he gave you. He planned it that way. Understand it. I understand it better now. I understand it better now. So I wanted to leave that with you on this morning. When God plans it that way, you can be happy about it. You can be excited about it. And even though you're going through the pain, God shows up and reminds you, I planned it that way. I know you weren't going to be comfortable with it. I knew that you was going to be sad. I knew that your heart was going to be broken. I knew that, you was going to have some questions about what happened. But I planned it that way. And because I planned it that way, I'm going to get you on the other side of it. And you going to make it. Because now you can look through that crack in the windshield. And you can see me, how I planned it that way. Because I gave you some sunshine on the other side. And I gave you some things to remember. And I'm going to go through them right quick before I leave you this morning. Because it strengthened me so much. And when God was speaking to me, I could hear him say, through that lesson, through that written sermon that my late husband wrote, okay? I can hear him say. So I want to share it with you because it gave me so much strength on yesterday. Say, God planned it that way. And this is how you know God planned it that way. He told you to pray without ceasing. He told you to trust in the Lord with all your heart. He told you to all things work together for God. He also told you to be strong and courageous. Then he turns around and tells you to take every thought captive. And then he say, do not fear, because God is love. And then he tells you that, reminds you that I can do all things through Christ. And that because the Lord is my shepherd. God planned it that way. Get excited about it. There might be some tears behind your excitement, but it's okay. It's okay. Because we're going to be all right. I have that understanding. God planned it that way. God placed me in the life of my late husband because he planned it that way. He said, if I'm Alpha and Omega, if I'm the beginning and the ending, that means I know all things. And yes, I saw the crack in your windshield. I saw your tears. I saw you walking with your head down. I saw you when you were in a fetal position laying in the bed. I saw that. And I send my angels to surround you with love and comfort. And to remind you, there are so many people, not only you, whose lives he impacted. Be grateful, because they trying to get through this too. So when God plans it that way, he surrounds you with his love. There's some things in each and every one of our lives on this morning that we can say that we're going through. And we might be going through with tears in our eyes, or frustration, or with our heads down. But God say, lift your head up, straighten your back up. I got some more stuff I'm going to do with your life. I planned it that way. I planned it that way. And you know, something I want to share with you this morning before I get off, something that I was reminded of and I want to share with you all. When you lose someone, family in your life, a way to remember them is to name something after them. So we have a scholarship fund, and every year it's the Michael James Scholarship Fund. And every year in May, when students graduate from high school, we give away at least 4 scholarships. And it's in memory of him through Trinity Missionary Baptist Church. Because he pastored that church over 32 years. So what I'm saying to you is, I just wanted to share that with you. We can do things in remembrance of people that we've lost in our lives, because they continue to live through whatever reminders that we put in place through their works. And that was something that my husband enjoyed doing for the young people who graduated from high school. So we have continued that in giving out the scholarships in May, at least 4 scholarships in May every year since he's passed. And so we thank God for that. I thank God for that. And I'm telling you, it's something that you can do. Just something, develop something in their name. And it's a good thing, because you are still touching lives through their remembrance. Okay? So you all have a wonderful day. Thank y'all for allowing me to come on once again and speak to you. And be strengthened. because I am truly strengthened by you guys. And remember, whatever you're facing, God planned it that way. I love y'all. You have a wonderful day. And God loves you too. All right? Bye-bye.